We're ready.
Yeah, we're ready.
We're live.
All right.
Hi guys, welcome to 1 Million Cups. I am a slightly quieter version of Julianne for you guys today. She
Not as
can't
many
make
hand
it.
gestures.
I'm holding my coffee, so hopefully not. I'll spill it on myself. My name is Diana Pastrana. I'm with M&M Office Interiors, and I am your social media coordinator for 1 Million Cups. And today I'm your MC.
Yay.
So, yay! Yeah, I'm a little nervous. Just kidding. So we want to always, of course, start by thanking our sponsors. Field 59 has done an awesome job getting us live on Facebook every week, so keep that in mind while you're introducing yourselves today, that you're live to the world.
So don't mess it up.
Don't mess it up. Get,
Well,
get
too
your
late.
pitch in. Sorry. Crescendo Coffee, Old National Bank for hooking us up, and the library for our space. So thanks to all of them, of course. And then the only real announcement we have is November 1st, we will not be here at the library. Threshold will be presenting for us. They're an event space on the east side on Atwood Avenue. And so they're going to actually be hosting us as well. So they kind of helped us when we were in a pinch when we needed a space, and they'll be a great presenter for us as well. So please come out. I know it's a different spot, you know, so it's a little different routine, but come out and see us on Atwood on November 1st. So
Sometimes change is good.
yes, yeah, mix it up a little bit. Get a little trial run for when we move spots permanently.
Yeah.
So again, my name's Diana Pastrana, M&M Office Interiors.
I am Leah Rowe. I'm with Health Bench, and I am also with Culture Community. A little pitch for our next Culture Community event on November 9th at our new home, the Madison Club. The amazing and incredible DP, who just happens to be in this room, is speaking. What is it? Culture Chicken? Is that what it is?
Culture chicken brand egg, which comes first?
Which comes first? Culture Chicken brand egg. So it's going to be amazing. So come out.
One of our own.
One of our own.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Michael Simonson, also at Health Bench. I don't really have any big announcements today, other than thanks to a bunch of folks who have been chatting with me about potentially presenting. So if you want to potentially present at 1 Million Cups, please continue to talk to me or shoot me an email or anything. I think I'm the one that gets emailed when maybe we all get emailed when you send an email into
Michael's the one that responds.
Yeah, I'm the one that yeah. Happy to see that and looking forward to more presentations.
Right. Lastly, I'm Dominic. I'm with QBE. I'm their entrepreneur in residence, and I don't know why I stand up here because they really do all of the work. My job is to recruit people, but there's so many I don't need to recruit anybody. So last week I was at 1 Million Cups in the Twin Cities at St. Paul, and we've got like 5 times the attendance they do.
Wow.
So that's something we have going for us.
And we want 5 times more.
There you
Yeah, tell your friends.
5 million cups.
Bring a buddy. We're going to introduce a buddy system. You can't come unless you bring a buddy.
go. And then I think it's
Yeah.
on to shopping.
I'm Chandra Miller. I'm the Director of Operations and Programs at Starting Block Madison. We're building the Entrepreneurial Hub on 821 East Washington Avenue, and we're going to open in May. And I believe we are going to come and present about the developments of Starting Block on November 8th.
Yes.
Woo!
Kurt Peterson, co-founder of 32 Auctions.
Steve Glad, co-founder of 32 Auctions, which is a site for hosting and managing silent auction fundraisers.
My name is Trizzie. I run Trizzie.com. We're a web and app development consultancy. I also do a podcast called 100 State of Mind. We're trying to capture the entrepreneurial spirit through conversation. So if you are an entrepreneur, get in touch with me. Love to have you on the show.
Hi, Sarah Coach Lasker, owner of MadisonT1DCoach.life. We do occupational, social, spiritual, intellectual, physical, emotional, environmental coaching for people with type 1 diabetes.
Yeah, I don't know how to follow that up. I'm just Jason, and my group is called Ridgetop Consulting. We are a technical consulting group emphasizing or specializing in communications and cyber/network security.
I'm DP Knudten. As most of you know, I'm with my company Collaborator Creative, and I collaborate creatively with a wide variety of individuals and companies on everything from custom copywriting to nonfiction branding. And I would be remiss not to mention the book that Spencer X. Smith and I just put out, available on Amazon.com, called Rotoma, the ROI of Social Media Top of Mind.
Hi, I'm Matt Dang. I'm co-founder of Response2, an early-stage SaaS startup. We're aiming to bring AI and big data to proprietary data sets that companies own in documents.
Hello everybody, my name is Aiden. I work at Healthfinch and I'm also part of Culture Community, so come on by next month. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Dan Anderson. I'm a physician computer science hybrid, and I do consulting in health informatics and clinical medicine.
I'm Dennis Barnum, serial entrepreneur, investor, Merlin mentor.
I'm Matt Smith. My wife and I moved to Madison last month from Pennsylvania. I have an idea and have not yet committed to it, but am exploring.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Lucas Frisbee, startup team strategist for Starting Block Madison.
Hey, I'm Alex Ryan, founder of Prairie Light Solar. It's a renewable energy finance consulting firm.
And I'm Derek Gebler. I'm the CEO and founder of Field 59. Our most recent announcement, we just closed a deal with a television station called KHQ in Spokane, Washington. So
Congrats.
we work with media companies across the United States, TV stations, newspapers, and radio stations.
Awesome.
Amazing.
Cool. Yeah, that's great news. I will pass it over to Igor from Ordinal Science.
Right. Hey, hi guys, how are you? We're doing more Ordinal Science. I hope you guys can understand what I'm saying despite my speech problem here. Some people confuse it for an accent, so let's go with that. Usually it was Lee who was supposed to be talking. You know, we're like Penn and Teller team. He does all the talking, I do all the doing. But he's currently at a conference, so it's going to be me today. Artificial intelligence had 4 beginnings in the last 50 years. In the 1960s, the first technologies were implemented, and they had very, very minimal results, but they created a hope among everybody that within the next 3 to 4 years from then, we would have computer translation mastered, speech-to-text translation mastered, chess games, computer chess engines would beat absolutely any grandmaster. None of it came to pass. In the 1980s, there was the next wave. Expert systems came to the fore. New technologies, new methodologies were developed. A lot of hype, no results. 1990s, that's kind of when I got involved. Again, mathematics behind artificial intelligence took another leap. More development, more implementation, more hope. But we were stopped by a very simple problem at the time, and it was just lack of computing power. Everything was in place, but simply not enough silicon to process what we needed. All the hopes dashed again. In 2005 and on, I started to see the emergence of artificial intelligence in business and in the corporate settings. I was very skeptical, and I would say a lot of people that have watched the history of AI, and especially those who participated in it in the 90s, probably felt the same way. Will it work this time? Who knows? So I watched it for 5 years, and by 2010 or so, what I noticed is that it was not going away, and the successes became real. More and more companies were implementing it inside their solutions, inside their products. At first, innovators, then more and more common companies actually have taken on to the technology. The biggest difference that I would say is that not only the computing power, but the actual methodology used to crunch the data, process the data, and develop the machine learning techniques, mostly the neurocomputing, the artificial neural networks. Computer vision, anomaly detection, machine translations. Today is something that's in every application just about that you see. Recommender systems like Netflix, Amazon, what product you're gonna buy, you interact with it every single day. Natural language processing systems that scour documents and decide what meaning they have and bring them together are commonplace as well. Complex AI systems such as driverless cars. So this is what we do. At Ordinal Science, we work with companies that are considering artificial intelligence and machine learning for their products and for their solutions. We help them understand if this is the right technology for the company and for their product, and then we take it further. We develop and implement the solutions to integrate into their products as well. I got my little clicker, actually. So I'm a little bit confused without it. We primarily work for other software companies. We work in healthcare, work in transportation, we work in manufacturing. I will have an ask of you a little bit later today regarding Midwest, so please remind me. But what I want to do today, I want to take this abstract notion of AI and make it a little bit more concrete by talking about a specific example, specific implementation, a case study, a very simple one that will allow us to relate to what it is that it's doing for very normal companies, how it solves problems that in the past have been solved with statistical tools. Today, they're solved with machine learning. Our client, they were a company that had a few customers throughout the United States. They were specializing in remote data acquisition. They had about 15 to 25,000 devices spread out across the entire United States and Canada. Those data acquisition devices captured telematics data, they captured sensor data, provided location data. Essentially, it was high-velocity IoT data that they had to ingest, process, and present to their customers. Their customers consider that data to be mission critical, so the DevOps team had to implement a set of monitoring tools in order to ensure that it was always running 24/7. There were some complexities here that kind of came to the fore as they began the implementation process. For one thing, there was high variability in data on an hourly basis, on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, on an annual basis. Every client, every customer of theirs also had a completely different use case and use pattern for that data. So a basic global threshold-oriented system to capture anomalies and capture potential degradation of service would not work. What they did, that was a few years ago, so what they did, they basically decided, all right, we will take a crack at it. Quite a bit of intensive setup. They used statistical tools to analyze how each of their customers worked and implemented a set of thresholds specific to each of the customers and geographic regions where they operated. It required a little bit of calibration, quite a bit of maintenance, but they succeeded actually. At the end of that particular project, they had an excellent track record of capturing any anomalies, degradation of service, and tackling it before the customer notices. That was the key, right? Every technology has a problem, but if you can tackle it before somebody calls you, maybe it'll go unnoticed. Work for them. Until they grew. Within 3 years, their customer base exploded and now basically increased tenfold. The rate of acquisition of new customers have gone up as well. Besides that, the complexity of data that they were collecting just increased. So what they had to do is basically to continue implementing a set of customized monitoring mechanisms for each customer, for each client. They were receiving many false negatives, many false positives. The system basically lost relevance, and there was a huge drain on their DevOps resources. So after they implemented 508 alerts, they decided it's intractable and kind of gave up. We were actually working with them on a completely different unrelated project. It was a longer project that related to a more complex scenarios they wanted to tackle. And at lunch, they described the problem. I'm like, man, this is perfect for a machine learning application. It would be a quick win. We can tackle it. We can handle this problem. And then maybe you'll believe us about the big project and we'll sign that deal too. Why is it good for a machine learning problem? There is a lot of variability in the data, and it's not consistent from customer to customer. So the system needs to learn the differences in expected throughput on an hourly, weekly, and monthly basis. It has to adapt to injection of new customers that basically happened a lot, and learn that this increase in data is expected and accommodated in a model. It also needs to auto-adjust to changes and change thresholds based on how customers are actually using the system. Today they track 40 parameters, tomorrow they track 400. How does it change the data flow, right? And most importantly, in their requirements, in our clients' requirements, they wanted to free DevOps team from this burden. To them it was high cost that they didn't want to carry anymore. Basically, it had to run as an unattended execution system. So we sat down with them after lunch, had a little bit more coffee, then some more, then some beers. It kind of ran into the night. And we decided that they decided they wanted to monitor 40 different parameters that are coming from the data acquisition systems. We took those parameters, ran them through a variety of different data cleaning services, etc. Those of you in this field understand the model. And then we basically built an LSDM neural network. It stands for Long Short-Term Memory Network. Without the details, they're good at really good at one thing. They look at a complex time series data. They look at it a lot. They'll spend a year looking at it, let's say, and they'll tease out the patterns that become obvious to the network for each individual client, for each individual data type, for each individual region. And then they can make predictions about what is going to happen next. So in our case, we basically took data for the previous 4 hours for that client, and we made a prediction of what those volumes for each parameters are going to be like the next minute. Then we waited a minute, we got the actual data and compared the two. If they were within one standard deviation of each other, things are good. If they're not, it's either a cautionary alert or a critical alert. Very simple anomaly detection system based on prediction. Turned out not to be quite that simple. There are always a few little pitfalls that you find when you actually get into it, but ultimately, it worked. We built a system, put it out into test environment using production data, monitored it for about 3 or 4 weeks, and discovered that it tracked pretty well. During that time, we actually detected 2 degradation of services. One was confirmed by the threshold-based system and was real. The other was not confirmed by the threshold-based system, but still was real, which was a great validation to the model. So we took the model and pushed it out into production and watched it for the last 3 months. One other element that had to be present there, that model could not be static because the data changes, our client releases new functionality, the model has to adapt. So every day the model is retrained on the new data that has been arriving from the field and essentially modifies itself, adjusts itself in order to accommodate those new parameters. As a result, I can talk about technical details, guys, if you want for the next 3 hours, but I'm going to skip it. Just go to the results. Basically, so far, it's a preliminary. It's been out only for 3 months for that particular client. They reported 30% decrease in customer-reported degradations. I actually don't really know what that means, but that's what they told me. I'm going to ask them. I just realized I don't understand this. But most importantly, the DevOps time investment was down to 0.5 hours per month from what they say used to be 15 hours per week. That's pretty cool. So we did sign that bigger deal. I think we proved that the AI actually works in their environment. And now they are a believer. They're a company that is looking at the technologies that used to be implemented. Problems that used to be solved with a fairly common technologies and seen the potential opportunity by looking at the newest developments that are coming out from academia and from the early adapters in the business world. For us, this is a simple example of where AI actually makes a practical difference. Our project space is a little bit bigger. We work in computer vision, manufacturing quality assurance and QA. We are working in anomaly detection, not outside of transportation and data collection. We are also looking at user behavior and actually video-based anomaly detection as well. People being present in areas that are not expected. And we're also working on projects that are a little bit bigger in scope, cognitive systems, planning systems, planning solutions, dispatching solutions for transportation, so that essentially automate the decision-making process and the planning process completely. It's kind of it, guys. Yeah, so I'll...
You mentioned that you had a community ask for us.
Yes, thank you. This is what's weird. We are a local company. We've been in Wisconsin since 2000. We had a couple companies in that time. When we split Ordinal Science as a consulting company, we considered moving away from Wisconsin to the West Coast or East Coast because almost 98% of our business comes from those two areas. We decided to stay because, we have a personal investment into this place. I think it really is going to take off at some point. What I'd like to know, if you guys have any suggestions or if you could spread the word out there to let know our companies in Midwest that it's useful to look outside of what we already know and potentially embrace new technologies. And maybe tell me how it is that we can talk to them so they understand and embrace the AI. And so they know that there are communities and there are companies here that are actually doing research and doing implementations. I recently talked to a guy. His name may have been Guy. And he actually said, you know what, I wanted to build an AI system. I went out to the West Coast, found an AI company that built the software for us. I'm like, man, why don't we do this? So how can we take Madison and how can we make a little bit brighter spot on the technical landscape, technical map of US? That's what I want to know. Talk to everybody.
I have kind of a related question. How does Ordinal Science reach out for applications? Do companies with a lot of data and no way to handle it reach out to you, or what does that kind of customer acquisition strategy look like?
It's a majority of it actually has been a recommendation from one to another. In this industry, once you get a little bit of a foothold in a particular area, it's a little bit easier to get business. From perspective of our local investment, we spent an entire year focusing on Midwest. We have a person dedicated to it. And we had some success. We got a couple clients here, which is great. Most of it came from conferences, coming to events like this, talking to somebody and people saying, oh, I didn't know you could do this. Then having a coffee, buying them a beer, then maybe getting them really, really excited about the technology and finally making a deal. So that's really how it works. I'll give you an example. We actually do make occasional phone calls to people just to establish a conversation. And this is what I mean in terms of difference. When we call to companies in Wisconsin and we say, hey, listen, have you considered AI initiatives, machine learning initiatives for your business? They say, I heard of it. Tell me more. When we call to the West Coast, they say, oh, yeah, we tried this, and this. 2 worked, 3 didn't. Yeah, what you got? Completely different level of understanding, and that's what I think we need to change. Please.
2 comments. One, I moved to Madison from Seattle, so needless to say, Madison is up and coming. Stay in Madison, stay in Madison.
All right.
But on the second side, I'm also curious about, I work in the diabetes world, and there's now a continuous glucose monitor out there that's taking it on an individual basis. And so I'm just curious, has it been looked at as more an individual? And so it could be, marketed along that way? Because, that's everything you're saying. I'm like, this is exactly what, I won't say the name of the company, is doing right now, what they just put on the market, based out of California. So
They do. And actually, we don't want to build product at this point, so that is the difference. We're a consulting company. But I do agree with you, and there is a space there. In fact, we are working with without naming names, I'm sorry, but with a foundation that is national, that is funding the research into it, specifically about patient-doctor relationships on an individual basis, focusing on the side of the patients, looking at the big EMR sets and other data, including some standard survey instruments, etc. And basically trying to understand if big data techniques can be applied to evaluation of patients' responses and choices, right? And we're also working with a clinical site, with a different project, Research Institute, Midwest organization, trying to understand a slightly different angle. Basically it's the same treatment outcome thing.
Yep.
But they have a unique angle. So that's happening. And I know that I'm involved in this, and I know that a lot of other companies that are involved in this. That there's a lot of that work is happening as well. Yeah. So yes, it's exciting. It's dangerous, but exciting.
Exactly.
In my humble opinion, take it for what it's worth, you're hitting on a key challenge of being in the Midwest, which is the Midwest, by its very nature, is 10 years behind, with islands of leadership throughout. I mean, we can all think of companies in Wisconsin specifically that are really at the leading edge of areas like this. The real benefit of being here is exactly what you kind of talked about, which was one-on-one communication and being the leader that can take somebody who's maybe lukewarm or even cold in interest, but knows that my competitor's doing this, so I probably need to get up to speed on this. So it's a very personal sell that I think, is your lever point, but it's also your real benefit too, because those West coastal-oriented companies are not necessarily going to have that high-touch personal feeling. Not that they aren't consultative at a high level, but not at the personal level that so much Midwestern business gets done at. So I think that's a real opportunity for you. And I would agree with you that Madison is definitely up and coming, but it's going to take a while. So you have the benefit of being the pioneer here, but the thing about being a pioneer is you got to bust a lot of sod before you can plant seeds that then have to grow.
Yeah, I feel like we are walking through a very deep snow and we don't even have the snowshoes on. Right?
Yeah.
But I agree with you. There are many people that are doing this. I don't know who won here. But.
Hi, so my name's Matt. I'm also playing around with some AI ideas. You mentioned that you weren't looking to build product, or that's not kind of how you guys operate. Have you kind of experienced across different verticals that there would be pretty good candidates for, thematic products, and what's kind of preventing you from exploring that approach?
Absolutely. There are many candidates, and we come across ideas for products all the time and go, man, that would be cool. That has to do with our hesitation. The previous company I had was a product company, and it's still going. But one of the things about a product, you have to commit to it if it generates revenue, and it's very difficult to swing and point elsewhere. So our passion, we found, is really taking academic research, technology readiness level 2, 3, 4, whatever designation is, and pushing it down, making it a little bit more accessible to businesses. And you can't do this in a product company unless you have enough resources to dedicate an allocated team, like Apple can do, or Google can do, or Facebook can do. So to kind of backtrack on what I said, we actually do have idea for an interesting product, and we are working on it as part of our consulting efforts as well. But this is a product that will take 5 to 6 years to come to a beta level type testing, just because technology is not quite yet there, and adoption would not be there as well. So it's not a VC fundable type product, but we fund it through our own activities. But yes, there are tons of opportunities.
So my question was actually to piggyback on DP's. You're kind of unique in the sense that you are in the Midwest. Do you feel like you're at a disadvantage when you're competing against companies that are on coasts?
No, actually, what you said, people say, listen, you guys are easy to talk to and you don't seem to disappear as soon as the check is mailed. We are hoping that we don't have to resell somebody again. You just call us as a default option, and that is a weird concept for people on the West Coast. Definitely see that. And but yeah, and the other thing is we actually have a lot of talent here that typically leaves, and we come at a slightly less expensive price point because of the quality of life.
How large is your team?
We have 9 core people, and then we hire contractors for projects. Please.
I unfortunately had to step out, so I didn't even hear your thing, but I'm actually working with a company in this space too. And I want to go offline and check out your technology, but the thing about the coasts we found in this space are more about the big ideas as opposed to the practical application. So if you can focus on specific problems to solve that your technology solves, there's a lot of opportunity in the Midwest. Now that's just a general statement because I unfortunately missed your pitch, but that's what we've been finding.
I agree with you, and this has been a big change for us. On the West Coast, we can come to somebody and ask them, "Have you considered any AI initiatives?" And they say, "Yeah, these are the ones." And we say, "Yeah, okay, we can help you," and that's how. Here we have to walk into somebody's door and say, "You have a problem. You don't think you have a problem. You have a problem. This is how we can solve this."
But the thing, what I'm saying is, they know they have the problem. They just don't know how to. This area is rife with problems to be solved with technology. So if you focus on that, you'll find problems that there's a lot of people with that problem that your technology, and if it does what I think it does, would be able to attract.
I agree and I appreciate it, I think. Yes.
So I was just going to have 2 questions. Do you know where in the hierarchy of your potential clients you get the most traction? Is it at the high level on the way down, or is it sort of that mid-level of the entity, the managers that are dealing with the day-to-day problems and then pushing it up? That was one question. The second question that I have is I think that in the Midwest, because we are so relationship-based, if you can have 2 or 3 clients that are on a named basis that you can use in promoting what you do, for example, this company that we all know, that is a major validator here. So not one that's on the coast, or maybe an example of one that's on the coast, but one that somebody is your client that you can name and you can give a use case example. I think that gets you far along the road. And then my last question was, have you had any relationship with TextNexus and their model? Because they work with, they're based out of Chicago and Illinois, but they work with finding Fortune 500 companies that have a problem and then finding solutions to that problem. They're a little bit more on the entrepreneurial product side rather than on the consulting side, but I think that there might be an opportunity for you to find potential clients
Really
and customers
appreciate
because
that.
they're identifying problems.
Okay. Well, so let me tackle 3 points that you made, hopefully in sequential order. First, we actually found that there is very little consistency who leads us to business. But what seems to be the case, the IT manager or the product manager who has a team that is completely overburdened and overwhelmed with projects, that gets another thing thrown at them. Hey, go check out this machine learning initiatives. And they say, hold on a second, what about the rest of this? So they typically are the ones that move us into the C-level conversation. And that's where things really happen. Because it's a risk for a lot of companies. They don't understand the technology. They don't believe that this is a safe bet. They want the boss to make the decision. If the boss is a visionary, they typically say, oh yeah, that's kind of cool, it's a great marketing potential, let's go. To your second point about using somebody locally, a lot of consulting companies have perennial problem of going on record about the names. We typically have to sign 14 pages of saying that we will never repeat the name in public, like Voldemort, you know. And so that's a bit of a problem for us locally here. You know, there are some companies we can talk about, but not many, especially once initiatives are active, because typically people conceive them as competitive advantages, and they don't want necessarily reveal them for a while. Kind of sucks. Yeah. And your third point was, I really appreciate that. No, we do not work with TechNexus people, but maybe will. Yeah.
In your presentation, there was one thing that kind of jumped out at me, and that was the DevOps savings. You know, 15 hours a week becomes half an hour a month. That's kind of a buried lead for especially the Midwestern audience, which is, I've heard of AI, is that just another rabbit hole, that money, I'm just going to throw money down, or is there a return on investment? If you start with that return on investment up front, you can get the attention of a lot of people, especially at the C-level. If you're talking about the kind of the guys who are tasked with doing that, a lot of this other information makes a lot of sense. But if you're talking to C-suite, ROI, if I can take your DevOps from 15 hours a week to half an hour a month, let's talk about the rest of it. You get their attention.
I really appreciate that comment. You know, for me it's difficult because I'm more of a technologist and researcher at heart, right? So when I want to talk to you, I say, look, AI, it does things, and it does things again, and then it does them better. Nobody cares.
Yeah, well, there's an axiom in marketing: beware the product that you want to sell, because that's not what the audience wants to buy. Yeah. So if the audience wants to buy efficiencies, return on investment, and high-level ratios of return on investment, start with that, because you get my attention, and tell me about the rest.
Can I ask you a question again, you know, back at you, for example? This is what we find in Midwest attitude is do-it-yourself, from what it seems. They say there is a toolbox of tools, you know, there is a neural network, packages, libraries, etc. Let's do it ourselves. And they try to embark on that particular project and usually find that it's like building a house. You can go to Home Depot, buy hammers and nails, but, you know, can you actually put it together? So we come and fix stuff. How can you get over that as well? They understand the ROI.
Yeah, you can't sell technology anywhere, even in the West Coast. You got to solve a problem. If you want to build a business, you have to solve a problem. If you talk to them about AI, you talk about machine learning, you talk about data analytics, they'll glaze over. You talk about the problems you can solve, even at C-level, they'll respond to that. Because they're getting hammered by their managers and their staff to saying, we got this problem. The industry is saying, we've got this problem. You have to identify what that is and go and solve that. You do that, then you got a shot. If you go in there and try to sell technology, I'll tell you, from 30 years of experience, you got a big problem. That's a big, big hill to climb.
You have a point.
And from what I understand on your presentation, you're offering things that a lot of companies need, which is scalability without adding headcount. You know, if the machine learning and AI can solve a lot of your service issues, you don't need to add those service heads, which is, again, a huge return on investment.
Solve a problem, yeah. But don't sell the technology, because you'll get a lot of, hey, that's really cool, and then you'll get a proof of concept with no money attached to it, and you'll never get anywhere. But if you go in and package it to solve a problem, you get a lot better reception on that.
But technology is so sexy.
To you.
Yeah, that's true.
Very good point. Yeah.
I got a whole team of people who think it's sexy.
That's true. That's true. Great point. Thank you. Yes, please.
Just to sort of echo what Dennis is saying and everybody else, I've been consulting in this space for about 8 years now, and I've been a big fan of AI ever since I was a kid, and I read Douglas Hofstadter's Eternal Deployment Parade, and I got addicted to the whole thing, and I went through that whole thing in the 80s and 90s, and a couple of AI winners and springs, and I've seen that whole thing happen. And like you know, I'm a geek, so I just love the technology, and I would go to people over and over again and say, this is so cool, you have to love it, and people are just, they're like, I don't love it. And, you know, it was frustrating, but I found the same thing, is that, especially in the Midwest, which is so conservative and so not quick to latch on to some magical unicorn, you know, and so they're much more grounded in, well, how does this actually help me in very concrete ways? And I actually stopped using the term AI and machine learning in trying to sell these problems to people. I would identify the problem, give them a partial solution, but not explain anything about it. And they're like, oh, you know, that we want some more of that. And so it's interesting, you know, but, you know, if you're out on the West Coast, and I spent a little time in Stanford's medical AI lab, and you talk to those people, and they want to hear this, you know. In fact, they want to really get into the weeds of it.
Yep.
But it's very different in the Midwest.
Yeah, research and academia respond to completely different stimuli. That's what we see for sure.
Yeah.
See, you understand that stuff. That's why I have MD after your name, and I don't.
Yeah.
Well, you're always going to run into build versus buy, Midwest, anywhere. That's going to happen everywhere you go. You're going to have guys or people that are interested in figuring out how it works. Is there a middle ground that you can offer that allows an API of some sort where, yeah, you are handling a lot of the back end, but it allows some people to build it into their systems themselves. People really like to be able to have some amount of control over that. They don't want to turn everything over. So that might be a middle ground that you could find. And I don't know if you already have some sort of API offering, but that might be something.
To a degree, many of our problems have been very odd, and we like that. You know, we like to have problems that are confounding, and this is where we have some fruitful ground. We usually release all the source code to the client, and so they have complete control over it. But you know, if a problem is very standard, very common, we found that people do go the route of let's just buy it, and we don't want to compete there. At least not at this point, not yet. But yeah, I think.
So I spend a lot of time looking at and evaluating startups, and I think within this Minneapolis, Madison, Chicago region, there's two particular industries that are much more knowledgeable about AI, machine learning, and all of this than anything else, and I would apply 100% of my efforts there. And that's financial services, specifically insurance, as a subset off of that, in the very broad healthcare areas. I think you talk to people in those two areas, they're much more aware of what is possible, and you don't necessarily have to sell that AI can do it, you just have to sell yourselves at that point.
I would add manufacturing to that.
Yeah, and I was thinking about that, because you got WMC and all sorts of stuff, but they're still old school, and you still have to crack the nut when you get there.
No, I've been spending a lot of time there. It's really much more advanced than you think. I mean, that was my thought a year ago. Manufacturing is very, very open to moving in this area right now, and I would check that out too. What?
Especially with the staffing crunch. As they lose their qualified operators, trying to figure out all these different ways, they're much more open to that conversation than they've always been.
Yeah, it really is gathering steam. So I'm not disputing those. Those are good too, but I would also look at the manufacturing. I know there's a good opportunity for.
I agree with you
for that.
completely. We actually, one of the projects we are doing is for a Swiss company, manufacturing company, at computer vision project for quality assurance.
Mm-hmm.
They have completely changed their viewpoint on what's possible, what they need to have in their assembly.
There's a big push to go to the whole IoT thing to improve productivity. That's the whole thing. And because of the staffing shortage, more manufacturing is coming back here, but they still have to compete on a cost basis with China. There's a big push in the industry for that. So check that out also.
I appreciate it. And thank you for the insurance suggestion. As you saw, I didn't have it on the list of.
For example, Northwestern Mutual this first week in November has a reverse pitch that's going on in Milwaukee where they've identified the 6 critical areas that they're looking for solutions for and are willing to fund. Yes, you're absolutely, but they're willing to fund and start. They're thinking of it from an innovation entrepreneur side, but I think they're just have identified 6 problem areas that they want to invest in and want a solution for.
Okay. Guys, great conversation. And feel free to stay after and talk more and
Grab some more coffee.
Grab some more coffee so you don't have to haul it back full, right?
Right.
All right.
My arm.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.